Hey everybody, it's Alicia with the Urban Key. Thanks so much for tuning in to the Urban Key TV. Today I have a very special guest. Today I have David Peterson. He's the president of the Pullman Porter Museum, which is the world's first and only Black labor history museum. If you guys didn't know, right here in Chicago. He's also the founder of Randolph's Dream, which is a community development corporation. So that is awesome. He's a very, very busy man. He's got two phones. So I just want to take time to welcome him. So everybody in the comments, just welcome David to our conversation.
Hello, hello. How's
I
everybody
see
doing?
people. So I know we have a lot of things to tackle in this conversation, but before we kind of get too heavy into everything, I do want to take time to ask you how you are doing, because as you know, we're in such a political, emotional, volatile time. And so I just want to, ask you, how are you?
I mean, honestly, I'm overwhelmed. You know, just over it. Ready to just be able to go to the store and buy some alcohol and some wipes. Just
And wipes?
I mean, just everything. I mean, it's not like we weren't already dealing with all of these social ills as Black people in America.
Yeah.
So then to add COVID, to add the all of the extra attention going on with the riots and all of that. I mean, it's a lot to deal with.
Yeah.
So this is the time where family is really needed. That reinforcement from partner, friends, whoever, that kind of keep you focused. So like I said, we're overwhelmed, but we are definitely still in the fight.
Absolutely. I agree with you wholeheartedly. Honestly, today was a tough day to me. I think I'll share this with you guys. I cried earlier. I just felt so heavy because it's just a lot on top of what we have to go through daily. And I just felt so overwhelmed that I didn't know if I wanted to do the interview, but I felt like it was important to do it because we definitely need to have the conversation. And I know that I'm not the only person that feels this way, just as you shared. So I feel like it's a safe space to be like, man, I am really, stressed to the max. So, thanks for sharing that. What are you doing? I know you mentioned family, but what are you doing to really make sense of everything that's going on in the country?
I mean, honestly, the thing that keeps me going is, laser like focus. Focus on the fact that I'm here playing a specific role in history. God chose me for this specific time in history to be who I am. To have the temperament that I do, to have the personality that I do, to have the wherewithal and the stamina that's needed for this fight right here. So I don't take it lightly, and because that's the case, and I know I'm guarded by angels, and guided by my ancestors, and nurtured by the elders. You know what I mean? It's like you have a purpose that's bigger than you. So we're not afforded the luxury to get tired. We're not afforded the luxury of getting weary. You know what I mean? So with that being said, when we set out, the purpose was always bigger than us. So we understand that this is just the work. This is what it is. And especially when you look back in time, I myself being a historian and know the stories of what our ancestors went through. I mean, this is a breeze at the end of the day.
Yeah. We can't we can't complain or not complain. We can voice our opinions about, the treatment, but we should not complain. So that's a good takeaway. I love that the young people, as my mom calls us, because I'm still young too, Ma, but I love that they have really hit the ground running in terms of the activism. So they're out, they're marching. But I want to ask you, do you feel that they have a unified message?
Yeah. So unfortunately, what's happening is we don't have a unified message. My mother always says, we're from the microwave era. We want it real quick right now.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And what's fortunate about that is, in the past, our elders and our ancestors have left us roadmaps of how to do this work, particularly the work that we're doing right now in terms of looking for passing legislation, getting executive orders passed that will benefit our people, all these different things. They have been done. I mean, we can date earliest back to the 40s, when A. Philip Randolph and the Pullman Porters organized the first March on Washington, which was in 1941. There was a roadmap to what that does and what it leads to, and that led to them getting the executive order signed by the president of the United States. You know what I mean? So when they got that executive order signed, they were able to shelve the march and kind of move on to something else, and then save it for 20 years later, the March on Washington in 1963.
Yeah.
So I say all that to say, I don't think that our generation understands the importance of sticking with something for a long time, because if that were the case, then this same passion that we have now would have never stopped after Trayvon Martin was killed.
That's true.
So, like I say, it's a family conversation. We have to be empathetic with our family and understand that we're dealing with post-traumatic slave syndrome, and just kind of just be patient with everybody. But sometimes my patience wears a little thin because people don't respect those that have come before them, and they don't even want to acknowledge them in some cases. You know what I mean? But I think that the passion is perfect. The zeal that we have right now, and the sense of urgency that we all have. But it's just important that we connect that with strategy, with techniques, and with measurable outcomes.
Nice. So I want to ask you, what do you think the key pillars for us should be? Because this is how I look at it. You have the younger generation, just how you were describing, popcorn generation. We want everything, now without knowing the history. But then you have the older generation who's been here, done that. This is not new to them. And they don't like some of the ways that this generation handles things. Do you follow? And
Yeah.
So how do you think that we would be able to unify everyone or get us on some type of an accord to be unified?
I think that everybody needs to kind of recognize their place in the battle, and the elders, they're here for counsel. They are the shoulders on which we stand upon. You know what I mean? So we need them to be a little more empathetic and understanding that this is a lot on us right now. We're at a different place in time, and I think that, their counsel is needed. So we can't think that we can do it without them, and they can't think that it can be done without us. So, a lot of them need to pour into us tangible resources, pour into us, wisdom that doesn't come with scrutiny or that isn't, condescending, if you will,
Yeah.
just be appreciative that, we are willing to step up and take this fight.
I think that's been one of the biggest drawbacks from the younger generation, and I think that because they are young, we've all gone through that rebellious period, it causes the friction that you don't want to go and seek the wisdom because you don't want to be chastised. And so we just continue to go in circles.
Yeah,
so we do need to heal that because, the elders have the knowledge. I love, my elders because I feel like they just know, and I just feel comfortable with them. I feel like I can be open and they see through us. They know. They just know.
And I also feel like, they also in some spaces need to humble themselves as well, because a lot of our elders, they brag about how long they've been doing something or they did this and they did that right. But the proof of concept is, well, if you had been doing it right, we wouldn't be where we are right now. You know what I mean? So I think that there's a certain level of accountability that we all need to take.
That's true.
I mean, because, like I say, a lot of things that our elders were doing could have been more impactful if they had been done from a nation building perspective, and not necessarily we want to be accepted or we want our voice heard perspective.
Yeah.
I think that a lot of the times, we want to be heard more than we want to be impactful. And we inherit that from a generation of articulate speakers who gave wonderful speeches, but then leave institutions for the next generation to inherit.
Yeah.
And then solid succession plans. I personally am different. I've been blessed with wonderful elders around me that have left those things, that have helped us build those things. But the overall consensus is, look, this is what should have been done. There should have been a generation that's just consistently pouring into us and transferring the wealth.
I agree. I want to switch gears a little bit. So obviously the topic of discussion or the flyer, it was titled Juneteenth. which I do want to get into. So Juneteenth is next week, for those who didn't know. And for those who are not aware, Juneteenth is known as Freedom Day for Black people. So it's really like the equivalent of the 4th of July for Black people. And really what it was for our culture, Texas was the last state. Texas was the last state basically to emancipate enslaved African Americans. And so, you know, when the Emancipation that's a tongue twister, right? Emancipation Proclamation was passed back in 1863. It wasn't until 2 years later that the enslaved Black folks in Texas were actually able to be free. And so that is what the celebration is for. Is for. So that's what it is. I have to say, I didn't know myself probably until 6 years ago. I had never heard of Juneteenth at all. And actually, I went to a Juneteenth event. It was a church event, which is like the staple of celebration and all of that. I didn't know what it was. And I didn't have enough wherewithal to go and look it up. But it's, you know, super important to our culture. Super important. And so I want to know from you, David, why do you think that the notoriety of Juneteenth has picked up within the last couple of years?
Well, I think that people, it's a universal awakening. It's a new conscious awakening. You know, and that attributes to, you know, the time that we are in the universe. That attributes to a lot of the things that are going on in the universe. People are just waking up, and people are becoming more confident being who they are, and tapping into their history, because for so long we've been taught that, you know what I mean, you're not supposed to really appreciate your history, and we haven't been taught that directly, but indirectly, you know, by the lack of acknowledgement of our accomplishments as a people across the African diaspora. You know what I mean? So that's why, you know, when we were growing up, you used to hear people say African booty scratcher, or, you know what I mean? You know, like everything about us is just like the butt end of the joke.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's just like now it's become a thing to be woke, and all right, that's cool. So it's acceptable now. You know what I mean? But whatever the case is, we're here now, and people need to just accept it and grow with it. You know, so with that being the case, we got to continue to push forward with that. I mean, we've come to a point where we were at a point where anybody who was saying anything remotely conscious was referred to as a hotel or something like that. You know what I mean? So everything that's the pure essence of us, we find a way to demonize it internally. And lately, you know, what's happening is people are kind of waking up. So particularly what's going on now with all of the riots and all of that, people are just anti the establishment. So, you know, this is an easy something that they can latch onto. Like, okay, you know what? We're going to celebrate Juneteenth, which is perfect, because that's what we need right now. We need everybody to be focused.
I'm glad that you said that. That's a great transition to my next question. So you have companies such as Nike, Twitter, others. They're all, you know, within the last day or two, they've all come out and said, hey, we're going to give our employees that day off in observance. And, you know, when I heard it, okay, great. But it just really seems like opportunistic in a way, because this isn't a new thing. So, you know, because of all of the things that are happening now, do you feel that this is a PR stunt for companies such as the ones that I've named, or do you think it's a good opportunity for our culture?
I mean, I think that we need to have the same level of finesse that they do. So whether it is or it ain't, it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? We need to get what we need to get while we can get it, and use that as more footing to push forward our Black agenda. So if someone wants to donate $1 million to a cause, we need to make sure that it's going to a viable cause that has footing in the community, that is grassroots based, and let that be, you know, the very thing that boosts us to the next level. We need to make sure, though, and be intentional that people aren't giving donations to organizations that aren't doing the work, that are being opportunistic and
accountable.
But I mean, you know, corporate responsibility is a major thing. I personally appreciate that they're stepping up. You know, in some cases, yes, it may be looked at as pandering, but if we stay focused on our permanent interests as Black people, focused on our Black agenda, none of that matters anyway, because as long as it, you know, falls in line with that, then we're all moving towards where we need to go. But that's why enforcing and leaning on and being educated on a Black agenda is so important for us across the board. So that when we have speakers that get up and speak on our behalf, they're saying the things that we have already compiled and did our research on. So we shouldn't have any speakers, whether they be clergy, whether they be politicians, or just self-appointed activists. No one should be able to get up in front of a camera and say, we don't have a Black agenda. We need to figure out what we want, because that's a complete embarrassment and slap in the face to those who have done the hard, heavy lifting prior to this.
Well, I'm gonna skip my next question because I have an idea of where you're going to, how you're gonna side. I'll ask anyway. So recently, it was announced that this current president will be doing his first campaign back, since COVID in Tulsa, Oklahoma, on the same day as Juneteenth. And do you know the history of Tulsa?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. And so for everyone who's watching who might know, Tulsa, Oklahoma was the site of one of the largest, deadliest racial bombings in American history. And for that to be the location on such a significant day for the African American community, I just wonder if you have any comment or response to that.
Yeah, so representatives from our movement will be there, in Tulsa, with a different agenda. We'll actually be there for an Opportunities Matter lawsuit filing. So we'll be filing a lawsuit with SBA, the Small Business Association, for the lack of evenly distribution of the SBA funds that have been designated by the government to help blighted and low-income and particularly Black communities. And the basis for that is the atrocities that were done during Black Wall Street. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Had Black Wall Street not been torn apart, we would have a proof of concept and a template of how we can set up business throughout the entire country, throughout the entire world, very frankly. You know what I mean? So because that was taken away, we want the families to recoup what they lost. And we want to put on the forefront, while all of those people there, all those decision makers are there, the importance of supporting something like this. Because if you're genuine about really making this country great, or you want to show people that you support the Black community, then here's your opportunity. We could be mad and talk to her blue in the face all day, right? But where are the actionable items? You know what I mean? You can't negotiate with somebody that you're scared to sit down at the table with. So that's why prior to this, we're making sure that we're flooding the airwaves with this Black agenda, letting everybody know this is what it is that we're standing on, and this is what we're going to get done. So no one is just automatically just giving our vote. Vote is a currency. Vote is an exchange. You know what I mean? So whoever wants our vote, you have to deliver us this Black agenda.
You had me thinking about Joe Biden when you said that. You don't just get it, but point.
Yeah, it's not going to be that simple.
No, not at all.
Not right now. Not right now, because right now is the opportunity we have to squeeze.
Yep.
You know what I mean? We're not going to have this opportunity any other time. Those riots, all of that puts us in another conversation. And what it also does is it gives us a unique opportunity to finally be autonomous, right? We're always just people always clump us together in a safe conversation. People of color, Black and brown, minority, right? But what happens is while we're doing that, we lose sight of what the actual things that Black people are going through. Our situation is different than anyone else in the United States. The way that we got here is different than anyone else in the United States. And our post-traumatic influence from that is different than everyone else. That's not to say that we don't have allies. That's not to say that we don't have friends and family and those who stand side by side with us. But those who stand by side with us need to be able to be humble enough to really, really be empathetic of what we're going through. We're the ones that don't have a connection to our authentic culture. And I'm talking about American descendants of slavery. I'm not just talking about anybody just because they're Black, because there are a lot of people who are quote unquote Black in this country who come from other countries who genuinely don't consider themselves Black.
That's true.
They register themselves as white. You know what I mean? They look down on
that's an entire different conversation. Right. The classification of. Have you read the book? There's an audio book that I'm reading. Goodness, it's not called Wide Awake. I've got to get you this book. I'll text it to you, but it's speaking specifically on what you're talking about. And I think those are, some of the things that we need to like hone in to different conversation. I do want to ask you about reparations. So I thought we were going to the pillars, but reparations was something that was brought up recently again. And I just want to get your take on it. I feel personally that we need an apology first. I think there's a way to do things. So I feel like no one's going to give you something without the proper acknowledgement that it's actually happened. So I feel like while the argument for reparations is not wrong, I think that we're backwards in the way that we're going about it and what we're demanding. You know what I mean? In order to get it structured correctly. What do you think? What's your take on it?
Well, I mean, for us, the condensed version of the Black Agenda, which we've been promoting, basically has that as line item number one. That's very important. And just point of fact, the Black Agenda condensed version that you've seen us throwing around, that's a very condensed version of the National Black Agenda Consortium's effort to create this Black Agenda. And that's been going on. It's a compilation of Black agendas all the way back to the 1800s. So there was a convening of people in 2004 with Senator Owens. The last one was 2012. Before that was one in 1970. And all of these different conferences is where people came up with the framework for this Black Agenda. I myself have been privy and blessed to be, sit at the feet of some elders, Reverend Fellows, and a lot of people who introduced me to this Black Agenda. So with that, we've been able to kind of condense it and make it a little more easily acceptable for our generation. But it's a living, breathing document that once again, there's a website for it. There's a whole movement for it with action items. And what we're trying to do is make people aware of this so that the conversation, once again, doesn't stay on, we don't have an agenda. So reparations, absolutely. That's the foundation of everything. First of all, let's make it as a conversation piece so that people can't say, oh, that's not something that I'm really interested in. No, it needs to be something that you're interested in. You know what I mean? Because there's a transfer of wealth about to take place of almost $3 trillion. You know what I mean? So as that transfer of wealth happens in the country, we want to make sure that it's going to the appropriate places. And we want to make sure that we have economic development opportunities and programs and projects set up so that when people say, okay, here's the money, we're not just saying, okay, we're about to just go blow it. No, we already have programs in place. We have financial analysts in place, professionals, practitioners who know exactly what to do in order to make this thing work for us across the diaspora.
Well, I'm curious. I see I'm looking at the comments. Someone commented, we don't need an apology. Just give us our 40 acre and a mule. and I get it, but I just feel like, I personally feel like, yes, give us what we're due, but I do feel like other countries have apologized. I feel like for this country, this country needs to acknowledge, until you acknowledge, you're never going to move past this thing. It's never going to turn over, the way that you want it to. I feel like we're out of sequence. That's just personally what I think. I want to ask you, I promise I'm not going to keep you forever, but I just love
it's fine.
How can people get involved with you? So you're going to Tulsa, what specific organization can people reach out to you and say, hey, like, I want to be a part of this? Like, how can I get involved?
Yeah, absolutely. You can always reach out to me. All my personal information is up there. And like I say, it's a coalition of organizations. I represent the National A. Philip Randolph Pullman Porter Museum. But, to be clear, we're not a constituency organization or a community organization. We're a cultural institution. So we try not to undermine our position by putting ourselves in places that aren't necessarily, that isn't our lane. We teach the history of organizing. So we're the training ground. After you leave the training ground, then we get into the actual work, which is our Community Development Corporation, Randolph's Dream, CDC. Now, we have several different program divisions of the museum. We have a youth and young adult division, Museum 44, where hip hop meets history. We have a Green Initiatives program division. We have a newly developed advocacy training program division where we're going to be taking people out of town and kind of letting them engage in the process so that they can understand what to do. So we're training up the next generation of organizers and leaders. So there's several. So you can always get information from us, about the museum at PullmanPorterMuseum.com. All our social platforms are always up. You can reach out to us like that. But in the agenda, can we run down the agenda very quickly?
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. So you can find one of these 10 items that you find yourself, genuinely interested in, and come join in with us as we do the work. The first one is, once again, like we were just talking about, reparations for Black descendants of American slavery. The second one is health and wellness equity and mental health. Number three is criminal justice and police reform. Number four is economic development through self-investment with government support. Number five is public and community safety. Number six is enforcement of educational excellence and developing skills and trades. Number seven is low income and affordable housing. Number eight is international tourism and hospitality / cultural economic development. Number nine is legislation for Black contractors and bids. And number 10 is green economy equity / reparative compensation and inclusion for farmers and distributors in the food, marijuana, and hemp industries. So those are the 10 items that we're really honing in on. Everybody, there's something for everyone to do. Everybody is not, hasn't been in it for a long time. So anybody, if this is your first day, if after you see this, you decide you want to join the movement, that's cool. We're not shunning anybody. We're not saying, oh, you ain't been down, so you don't try to be down. Like, we don't have the time for that. We need everybody to plug in and lock in with us so that we can do this. It doesn't have to be with our organization. It could be with anybody, but just find one of these items and just get to work, because it's all out war on us right now, very frankly.
Do you all do any work in conjunction with the Urban League or NAACP at all?
So ironically, no, we don't do any work with those organizations.
Are you open to it?
Absolutely. There's no. As long as the other person on the end of that friendship or whatever ship it is aligns with our Black agenda, aligns with the permanent interests of Black people, then we're fine with it. You know what I mean? So that person could be Black, white, purple, spotted, whatever. It doesn't matter, as long as what they're doing is genuinely rooted in trying to help us propel ourselves to the next level.
Okay. I think that's excellent. I do want to, because this is an event platform. I think it was necessary for me to have some form of conversation about what is happening, even though for me personally, it was really just hard to process through. But I wanted to give you an opportunity to talk about an event that you have coming up. So next week begins Black Culture Week. So can you tell us a little bit about Black Culture Week?
Yeah, so Black Culture Week is going to be the epicenter for Black culture in the country. Spearheaded by my brother TJ Crawford, and we're just a collective. I work with the Black Mall, working with WDB Marketing. It's just a lot of us coming together to archive what's going on. A lot of people don't know, but this is actually Black Music Month as well.
Yeah.
So with that being said, Black Culture Week is from the 19th to the 28th, and we're gonna be heavy each day. So you can go to blackcultureweek.com and get information about it. On the 19th, we're having our citywide caravan parade. So we're starting on the west side, and we're going through the whole city. We're handing out red, black, and green flags. We're teaching people about the importance of Juneteenth. We're giving people something to be proud of. A different energy from the riots,
yeah,
more culturally centered expression of our frustration. And we're just gonna, go through the whole city. We're gonna start on the west side. We'll go to the DuSable Bridge. You know what I mean? Where the first Black man, Jean-Baptiste DuSable, founded Chicago, founded the first business district here in the city. And from there, that was the nucleus of the city. So we'll go there to honor him. We'll be going through Bronzeville, going down Motor Road where Chess Records was, the old Defender was. And it's basically going to be like a historical tour. We're just going through all of the places that our people have, left their footprint, and making our presence known all the way to the museum on the far south side in Pullman National Monument. And for those who don't know, Pullman was designated by Barack Obama in 2015 as Chicago's first National Park Service site. So we're real proud of that.
That's
and the connection with, national parks and Juneteenth is it was the Buffalo Soldiers, that one of the last regiments, who brought in the word to Texas that Juneteenth was over. The Buffalo Soldiers were actually the first national park rangers as well.
We have such a rich history with the national parks. So I think that's amazing. I think that's awesome.
Absolutely. So we're looking for everybody to come join in with us, and we got another syndicate of the the parade going on in the 21st Ward. The Auburn Gresham neighborhood. So, if you can't make it all the way to the west side, you can go to Auburn Gresham and lock in with our girl Queenie. And like I say, we're just excited, just to be able to celebrate us.
Yeah.
Unapologetically, autonomously, and with dignity and pride.
Absolutely. I'm so excited. I actually want to come out and be a part of it because,
Yeah, we'll love to have you.
yeah, just we need that energy. Everybody needs to get a little bit of what you guys are putting together. So why don't you tell everybody one more time how they can find out about the event? What's the website?
BlackCultureWeek.com.
Okay, and how can people get in touch with you?
They can get in touch with me through PullmanPorterMuseum.com. Of course, all my social media handles. APR Museum. APR Pullman Porter Museum on Instagram. The Plug Fella on Instagram. You can go to our Museum 44 page on Instagram, Facebook, all of the same things. Museum 44, A. Philip Randolph, all of those things. So I mean, in any way that you can catch us, just reach out to us and somebody will get back to you.
For sure.
Somebody to lock in with us though.
Well, we definitely went past the 20 minutes, I promised you. But thank you for staying on longer because you definitely gave us more information,
Yeah, for having me. I really appreciate it. I mean, every time we have an opportunity to beat the drum about this cause, I mean, I'm there for it because, I mean, we have enough BS that we're talking about. We need to be talking about the things that are really, really going to push our people to the next level.
Yeah. So thank you again. I'll reach out to you, just about how I personally can be a part of the movement. I just wanted to do my part. So, I've not been active, so I'm ready. So I'm just like, this could be like a good entry point. So cool.
Okay, cool. We'll see you soon.
Yeah. And I'll see you next week.
All right, cool. Peace.
All right, thanks. Hey, everybody. I want to thank you so much for tuning in. I hope that you enjoyed the conversation between David and I. Check them out. Go to blackcultureweek.com, as he stated, and just continue to support the Urban Key. I'm really trying to build something that we can all be proud of in the event space and just in terms of Black culture. So I definitely appreciate every like, every share, every ad. So just thank you so much, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye.